Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Kami dari kelompok 4 akan membahas tentang high dimension. Untuk pertama kali, misalkan saya untuk mengenalkan anggota saya. Yang pertama, saya sendiri, asalnya Arista Putri. Yang kedua, ada Aurellia Nabila Putri. Yang ketiga, ada Raihan Farras Arifin. Yang keempat, ada Putri Tassya. Yang kelima, ada Dimas. Untuk materi akan dibaca oleh Raihan.
Yang pertama saya akan membacakan tentang dimensi yang lebih tinggi. Tidak puas dengan terjemahan tradisional musik ke dalam arsitektur, Breakdown melanjutkan untuk membangun instrumen yang menerjemahkan skor musik ke dalam komposisi warna, bergerak yang diproyeksikan ke layar dengan cahaya listrik. Dengan Luxor Gun, ini ia bahkan mengubah dan menampilkan tontonan besar-besaran, seperti Cathedral Without Walls di Central Park, New York pada tahun 1916. 5 tahun kemudian, musisi Thomas Wilfred membuat instrumen yang disebut Clavilux, yang juga dikenal sebagai organ warna, di mana desain 4 dimensi breakdown akan diterjemahkan ke dalam gerakan dengan menggunakan bahan transparan yang peka terhadap suara, yaitu versi modern dari plat Chladni. Hingga 1950-an, Wilfred membangun sejumlah Clavilux yang berbeda. Beberapa di antaranya memproyeksikan pola cahaya ke dinding, sementara yang lain terdiri dari layar seluas 2 kaki persegi di lemari dekoratif yang mempunyai pesawat televisi.
Selanjutnya saya akan memberikan contoh gambar mengenai Cathedral Without Walls yang ada di Central Park, New York. Nah, ini contoh gambarnya. Silakan dipahami dulu ya, Rek. Kalau sudah, kita balik lagi ke materi ya. Terus dari kata-kata ini, ada yang kalian nggak tahu nggak sih? Kayak musisi Thomas Wilfred membuat instrumen yang disebut Clavilux. Kalian tahu nggak sih Clavilux itu apa?
Enggak.
Belum tahu.
Nggak ada yang tahu ya? Ini coba tak search yo. Clavilux itu apa? Clavilux is a term coined by the artist Thomas Wilfred to refer to his mechanical invention that allowed the creation and performance of lumia. Boleh contoh gambarnya aja karena bahasa Inggrisnya saya tidak paham. Oh, ini musik ya? Oh nggak sih?
Iya, itu
Pola
kayaknya
musik ya?
di musik apa? Itu nggak sih nada apa not balok ya?
Oh, nada-nada. Oh. Ini bener kan ini? Iya. Terus kayak gini-gini. Oke, itu udah paham ya. Kita balik lagi ke materi. Selain Clavilux ada lagi nggak di sini yang kalian nggak tahu?
Baik, itu doang materi tadi coba. Nah,
Ini udah.
bentar.
Udah.
Terus itu kalau yang versi modernnya tadi, apa tuh? Bacanya kelat nih.
Ya, kelat nih.
Pelat nih. Mana sih? Pelat
Tuh.
kaut nih kita.
Kalau yang itu gimana?
Versi modern dari pelat kaut nih. Coba kita lihat ya.
Oke.
Pelat kaut nih. Terus coba cari pelat kaut nih guys. Oh, gambar apa ini? Kayak contoh yang di itu nggak sih? Di bawah itu.
Aku mau share video yang tentang Clavilux
Oh iya
Thomas
bisa.
Wilfred Master of Light.
Oke,
Ntar ya.
aku stop sharing.
Saya dulu aja.
Oke.
Bentar. Ini yang tentang Thomas Wilfred Master of Light. Kayak yang dimaksud pelat klat nih itu ini deh.
Kayak versi itunya nggak sih?
Kayak ini yang lama terus nanti ada yang baru lagi.
Ini versi lama nih.
Iya.
Jadi itu potongan kaca gitu tuh.
Iya. Dan ada
Koleksi
warna-warnanya
panutan
juga. Jadi kayak tiap bloknya itu warnanya beda-beda.
Oh ya kayak ini.
Wilfred himself would have made a custom unit for you. And in fact, Catherine Dreyer, who was one of Wilfred's early patrons, contacted Wilfred, asked for a model of the Clavilux Junior, and she insisted that it not have the Art Deco decoration that so many of those other units had. She just wanted the mechanism and the ability to play it herself and really use it as an aesthetic object rather than a piece of furniture.
Hi, about a month ago, I got to start working with artworks by Thomas Wilfred. Now, Wilfred called these artworks Lumia. Wilfred kind of invented light art, and I didn't know what I was looking at when I first saw these things. I was mystified about exactly what he was doing. It's as if I was looking at a painting, but I'd never seen a paintbrush. So let me show you a little bit about how Thomas Wilfred worked. I understood this after I actually looked into his mechanisms, and what I saw was it's simply a clear incandescent light bulb and something shiny to reflect it. Because that's all he's doing, is he's taking the filament in the clear light bulb and is reflecting it onto the wall. So I'm going to show you that in a minute using these elements and just a little bit of black plastic and some colored material. Let me turn off the lights and I'll show you. Hi, I'm back. So let me show you how Wilfred was working. So we've got our clear light bulb, I've got something shiny, and there it is. And his most basic idea is that I'm just reflecting that filament. But the light bulb itself is washing out that projection. So I'm going to take some black tin foil and cover it up so now the wall is black, but fancy thing about light is that light only illuminates what it hits. So the light's still up here, and that filament is still projection worthy down there. And I take the reflector and there we go. And that starts looking like Thomas Wilfred's artworks called Lumia, with that basic reflection of that filament. Now I'm slowly moving the reflector. Wilfred did this mechanically, where he moved either the reflector or he moved the light bulb, especially in his earlier works, he was moving the light bulb. Now the quality of the film will make a difference. I've got a mirror here, and the mirror does quite a different thing. And Wilfred used this as well. He used different quality of reflective materials. And of course he used color. So just by putting some color, this is amber, on top of the light, I'm now projecting amber. And one of the things that Wilfred did was that he would move the color. In this case, it's just the difference between no color and white. So Wilfred developed this entire vocabulary, but at its most basic level, he's just taking a filament and something reflective and projecting the beauty of a filament onto a surface. Come see Thomas Wilfred's work. Thanks.
The event production world is full of all different kinds of lighting. Beams, spots, washes, texture effects, LED strips, video walls. But there are a couple of effects that you see in nature that you really don't often see in event production. One of those is the Aurora Borealis and the Aurora Australis, also known as the Northern and Southern Lights, or just an aurora. Auroras are formed when charged particles from solar winds collide with the upper atmosphere and ionize. This ionization results in these really beautiful, sweeping curves of light that look sort of otherworldly and ethereal. When this kind of light is created artificially, it's generally speaking called Lumia. In this video, we're going to show you a little bit about the background of Lumia, how Lumia can be created, and how you can create your own Lumia effects on the cheap. Lumia was initially a catch-all term that described any form of art created with light. Today, the term is more specifically associated with these ethereal, abstract forms of light, such as this aurora effect. Lumia as we know it was pioneered by Thomas Wilfred in the 1920s and 30s. Wilfred felt that light could be shaped and changed to create an entirely new form of art. In 1919, Wilfred attached a light source to a geared motor shining through a series of light filters and lenses in a machine called a Clavilux. Throughout his life, he created around 24 of these dedicated light art machines, a few of which are in service today by collectors and museums. The Clavilux machines could be reconfigured to produce a wide range of effects that no one had ever seen before. Lumia art saw a resurgence towards the later part of the 20th century, using laser as a new source of light. The coherent nature of laser light makes it a natural fit for the art form, because even the smallest of imperfections in a piece of projection medium can result in huge changes to the light of a laser. Laser artists such as Tim Walsh of Laser Spectacles and Mike Gould of Illuminatus Lasers have been creating Lumia and acting as ambassadors for the light form for decades, producing modern laser projectors and laser projector accessories to further the art. Part of the fun of Lumia is that as long as it's safe, there's no wrong way to create the art. Traditional laser optics are very high efficiency in order to keep beams as clean as possible, but the optics that you use in Lumia are intentionally inefficient. They've got bends, grooves, and cracks for light to refract through. There are some commercial solutions already out there that are sort of modern Clavilux machines for laser. The Laser Spectacles Laser Galaxy projector offers several ways to create your own Lumia with several means. The single and double disc arrangements rotate to create dynamic pools of light. The turntables let you place interesting objects like crystal vases and glasses to shine laser through. If you already have a laser projector and want an off-the-shelf Lumia solution, the Illuminatus Laser Wobulator can attach to any laser projector and has a series of interchangeable discs for different effects. These commercial systems are excellent if you want Lumia without having to break out the blowtorch or epoxy, but there are some great ways to create Lumia effects in your own shop. There are basically two ways to go about creating a smooth, flowing laser Lumia effect. You either need to move the refracting media or you need to move the laser source. The most dynamic movement typically comes from rotating the refracting media very slowly, but this can be more expensive to build because you have to source and wire up a very slow-moving motor to rotate your media. If you're using a laser pointer source, that's a great way to go. But if you already have a laser projector, it can be much faster and cheaper to create a passive system where the projector moves the beam through the media. One of the best ways of making a really spread out and organic looking Lumia effect is torture tubes. Torture tubes are bits of glass that we heat up in a torch and then we just sort of deform and bend them so that the light enters them at unusual angles and exits at unusual angles and makes this really fluid, organic effect. Go ahead and put the tubing in a blowtorch. We use propane for this. You'll notice that once it starts to get hot, the flame will change from blue to sort of a greenish yellow. Once it starts being predominantly yellow and it's been in there for a few seconds, it starts to become pliable. Don't let it go too long. Move it in and out of the fire as needed because you don't want to completely collapse it. You don't want to completely melt it. Molten glass is not pleasant. Use something metal or at least non-flammable in order to sort of dent and bend the tube so that it's in an orientation that you like. If you want to have a whole lot of small creases in your Lumia, put a whole lot of small dents in it. If you want it to be more subtle, put a few large dents in it. Play around, try it out. Glass tubing is cheap, propane is cheap, just don't burn down your house. Typically, torture tubes are run by using a very low RPM, like 1/3 of a revolution per minute motor, directly in front of the laser. I've also been known to just gaff tape it to the front. That works perfectly fine as long as you're moving the pattern. Another common form of media that people use to create Lumia is as simple as stuff that they know was laying around the house. Like that crystal vase that you got as a wedding present 10 years ago that hasn't been used once, crystal glasses, even doorknobs and shower glass. Basically anything that will take light and refract it in an unusual fashion is a great candidate for Lumia. So go ahead, look around your house, see if you find anything weird looking, and put it in front of your laser. Another common media form is to take some epoxy and put it on either plexiglass, acrylic, or just regular glass. Here I've got a couple pieces of acrylic that I've cut for this. Some DP100 by 3M, I find that works really well for this application, and a couple of toothpicks. All we're going to do is build up a layer of this clear epoxy on top of our clear substrate, in this case it's the acrylic, and we're going to go ahead and groove the surface. This method is a little more expensive because you have to buy the epoxy and it's a little more time consuming. If you're going to do it, plan on doing a couple just so that you can work out some of the kinks, because the first couple don't really go quite well till you get the feel for it. The big thing with the epoxy is it has the disadvantage of over time it's going to yellow. but it does take some time to do that, and it doesn't really degrade your performance all that much. It can also be a little time consuming to do. I mean, it takes a good 15 minutes in order to do this between curing time and creating the epoxy and scrubbing it with the toothpick. The big advantage that you get, though, is that you can try all kinds of different recipes. So you can try one where you're putting all the grooves in just one direction, side to side. You can try one where you're putting all the grooves up, down, left, right, swirls, that kind of thing, for different effects. What I'm doing right here is just spreading the epoxy in a light layer, nothing too thick, just right over. One of the things you'll notice is as I scratch the surface here, because the epoxy has just been put down, those scratches don't really sit into the surface. They sort of dissipate and squish out as the liquid settles. This is why we need to let it sit for about 4.5 minutes. This is a 5-minute epoxy. At that 4.5 minute mark, it starts to get stiff enough that when we groove the epoxy, it doesn't settle out, so we end up making those grooves permanent. We have to basically just sweep back and forth like this once we hit that 4.5 minute mark, and then those grooves will catch the light and bend it in different ways. And 5 minutes later, here we are. We're scrubbing with the toothpick and we're trying to get our fine lines. If you look closely, you'll see that the toothpick is now leaving permanent impressions. They're not really going right away. So the point here is to go ahead and create those deformations. We're going to do one pass in one direction for this particular one, but you can do whatever you want. Please do experiment. We're going to let it then sit for 15 minutes to cure, and we're going to do another layer on top in another direction. Zooming in on the finished product after a second direction, you can see that we've got a whole bunch of little ripples in here that are going to catch the light. You can also see next to it a disc I created about 2 years ago, and you can see how it sort of yellows over time. I found that this doesn't affect the output from a practical standpoint, but it is obviously going to diminish your output slightly. With the epoxy and acrylic method, you can create the discs or plates to be whatever orientation, whatever density you want. So with this one, we've got a sort of linear where everything sort of stretches out along one axis as we rotate. With the other piece, you'll see that we have it set up in the same fashion, so that when we rotate it 90 degrees, the image is taller than it is wide. And that's one of the really great things about Lumia as an art form, is that you get the opportunity to experiment at a fairly low cost just by changing your media around. As an example of that, we're going to show you one of my favorite methods of creating Lumia, and it also happens to be one of the cheapest. Plastic bottles, bubble wrap, miscellaneous plastic sheeting, all kinds of just garbage that you've got laying around can really make some absolutely beautiful light. I highly recommend you try it out. The world of Lumia is super rich with a very deep history and backstory. I highly recommend reading more about it. There's a documentary film out there we're trying to get a link to share with you folks. But there's also just a ton of resources available from the Smithsonian, from Yale. Highly recommend reading through that and checking out some of the history. You can see that in the video description. Thanks for watching.
Ini udah ya videonya. Ini udah ya. Apa ada lagi? Ada lagi.
Tadi saya 2 nggak sih?
Oke.
Belum edit.
I can't release it remotely.
So it's recording, so Clavalux.
Opus 72.
This is Opus 72?
Yeah. Go. Stellar anomaly.
Wow.
Pretty trippy, isn't it?
It definitely is three-dimensional.
I love it. I want one of these.
There should be a pretty major color change coming up here. Yeah, the prisms.
Prism
on the
stock, yeah.
On the stall.
So now the shapes will stay the same with the colors, right? Oh man, that's
Pause it when you can, Jeff. I'm gonna.
Okay,
that
yeah,
prism
go ahead.
and shut it down here for just a second.
it's been a while.
It's unbelievable. It really is three-dimensional.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It sure is. Can we turn on the lights?
No, I got it.
It's crazy the depth it has.
Yeah.
Is there a radius on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, that has something to do with it. So that thing's like cylindrical, kind of.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, you're gonna let it loose? Oh. Look at the color.
It'll come.
We're
Yeah,
on-
it's just
we're
cycling
on-
through a black and
we're on a
white.
black
This is
and
a
white
black and
thing.
white section on the disc.
Cool.
The thing is, these discs turn at different rates, so you really can't get the same combination
Ever.
more than once. Yeah. It's pretty random.
Unless you started it and indexed it every
Yeah.
time or something.
Yeah.
It's like the northern lights to the nth degree.
It is. It's like Northern Lights in a box or
Isn't it?
something.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable the dimension you get out there
So
with that.
ethereal, yeah.
Yeah, it really is unbelievable. When's this thing leave here?
Tonight, and then it's getting packed for shipping tonight.
After pizza?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna bring Nadia down.
Man, I
It's
think it's
unbelievable.
just the coolest.
I really like it.
I do too.
Can you imagine what the big one was like? The one that was the size
Oh.
of a garage door?
Yeah.
Be like, it'd make it dizzy.
Yeah.
Maybe it's light.
Too
I haven't
cool.
even run through this whole series.
We need to try different opus.
A different
I
opus.
want to try the different prisms.
Each glass disc is an opus. Is its own composition.
Whole series. But we haven't even run through all the prism.
Oh.
Combination. So this is different.
So another prism.
Yeah. It's
Oh.
this is kind of a symmetrical two prisms. Next to one another. That's really fire looking.
Yeah, I was like fire in the hills. Wow.
This must have been close to what it was when I shot that picture yesterday.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
rays.
Yep.
crazy. Did you see what's going on here, Jeff, while this thing's running?
No, here, step aside a little bit so I can get a shot of it real fast.
You want to get a shot of the
Yeah,
inside?
just keep it running how it was. Just.
See how the bulb oscillates?
Is that light too bright?
The bulb
Oh,
on
yeah.
a 4-bar mechanism that makes it oscillate?
Yeah, it's going. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So that it's, in relation to the tube, it's moving.
Interesting.
Isn't that wild?
They painted it so.
Yeah, the paint's coming off of it.
What was it with this bulb?
Those are for servicing the cabinet.
I guess.
So when the cover's on, you get a little light here to load it, and you get a little light down here to see what your discs are.
Too cool.
New prism?
Yeah. I like those 3 little guys.
Yeah.
Those are good ones for flooring.
Evaporate, they dematerialize.
That's black and white disc, huh?
That's rolling through some black and white portions.
Different prism, but same opus.
Yeah.
Look at those.
Look at them.
Crazy, yeah.
Popped up. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, those are pretty intense. And then this is how you can enhance it with these lights. So we can do some tuning. It's actually sounding pretty good in this last words.
It just was rusty, it hasn't run in so many years, it's just needed a
Stalled
little,
on it.
just needed a little,
I get the idea. That's very interesting.
little exercise. Oh, it's going red.
Dude, get away the cloud looks.
Fire, a little fire.
It's like an inside shot of your lungs.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
So you should be able to do all this disk releasing with the remote if the DC batteries were up to snuff.
Ya, lanjut materi yang modern tadi itu atau ganti?
Yang Clavilux sudah paham kan?
Udah.
Clavilux itu kayak
lanjut
kayak
yang
tadi.
berarti kesimpulan dari Clavilux tadi yang kalian dapat apa?
Potongan kaca. Gimana tadi?
Potongan
Kayak
kaca
pola-pola
yang
menurut
dikasih
you.
Uki.
Pola
Iya.
Iya.
Dan polanya itu dari apa? Skor musik.
Oh ya ya. Oke. Terus lanjut modern dari plat cloud nih tadi Mbak ya.
Iya.
Ya,
Plat cloud nih.
Kesimpulannya apa tadi?
Kesimpulannya tadi yang Clavilux semua, Rek.
potongan kaca. yang berpola, yang terinspirasi dari apa mang? Musik apa nada?
Musik
Skor
gitu kan.
musik.
Ada.
Udah dicatat?
Dari apa?
Ya?
Terinspirasi dari apa?
Terinspirasi
not
dari skor musik.
Lanjut lagi. Sebentar. Coba dulu ya. Berupa bis. Tentang dari sini selain modern dan plakatnya ada lagi nggak yang nggak kalian paham?
Paham.
Udah cukup paham sih.
Ya. Oke, lanjut. Ya. Mekanisme dari Clavilux Wilford yang terdiri dari 1, 2 itu. Kita baca ya. Mekanisme inti Clavilux Wilford terdiri dari satu atau lebih sumber cahaya. Beberapa cakram bertatahkan permata cermin distorsi yang berputar pada berbagai kecepatan. Meskipun beberapa pola cahaya diulang dalam siklus, file lumia konsisten dengan prinsip 4 dimensi breakdown. Karena tidak ada satupun gambar yang ditangkap yang dapat diambil untuk mewakili keseluruhan komposisi. Dari sini ada nggak paham? File lumia konsisten dengan prinsip 4 dimensi breakdown. Itu maksudnya gimana ya? Meskipun beberapa pola cahaya diulang dalam siklus, file lumia konsisten. File lumia itu apa sih, Rek?
Lumia itu yang tadi nggak sih?
Sing mana?
Yang sing warna tadi sing diputar tadi itu.
Oh,
iya.
tadi namanya lumia.
Nah,
Kalau
tadi
prinsip 4 dimensi breakdown.
Bentar, tadi aku nemu contoh gambar sih. Tak share screen ya. Ini bahasa Inggris.
Coba diartikan bahasa.
breakdown tadi itu tuh anunya desainnya gitu loh.
Betul ya suara nih.
Iya kan, itu desainnya. Cuman dia itu dapat dari angka sama dari alam.
Geometri nggak sih? Iya. Geometri abstrak tentang.
Jadi dia bukan dari musik.
Berarti ini yang matematiknya. Pak tadi yang musik, yang ini matematik.
Bisa lihat nggak sih kayak kalau yang matematika dia lo tadi. Gimana? Ada yang belum paham, tak?
Kesimpulannya udah dicatat. Dim? Kesimpulannya udah dicatat.
Kesimpulannya apa?
Ya kesimpulannya
Like
itu breakdown tadi itu yang cloud itu
Kalau yang cloud breakdown itu bukan dari musik, tapi dari angka sama bentuk geometri yang terinspirasi dari alam. Nah, kalau yang cloud fix itu kan musik, kalau cloud breakdown itu yang matematiknya.
paham semua, tak?
Dan ke materi selanjutnya ya.
Lanjut ya.
Ini tentang prinsip 4 dimensi breakdown. Oke. Selanjutnya, breakdown adalah salah satu dari banyak arsitek yang terpesona oleh gagasan 4 dimensi. Bahkan sebelum teori relativitas, Einstein menggunakan geometri 4 dimensi secara spesifik dengan waktu dipahami sebagai dimensi keempat, terinspirasi dari teosof lain. Breakdown mendalilkan keberadaan dunia pola dasar 4 dimensi yang tak terlihat, yang hanya dapat kita intuisikan secara tidak sempurna. Dari sini udah paham kan? Maksudnya breakdown itu bilang kalau keberadaan dunia pola dasar 4 dimensi yang tak terlihat, yang dapat kita intuisikan dengan tidak sempurna. Ada yang bingung nggak sama kata-kata itu?
Nggak bingung.
Udah, lanjut aja ya.
Ya, lanjut.
Menjelang akhir abad ke-20, banyak desainer avant-garde kembali ke tema ini. Desain Peter Eensman untuk gedung sains di Universitas Carnegie Mellon, Pittsburgh, Amerika Serikat. Diturunkan dari serangkaian kubus bulan yang saling berpotongan. Padatan terdistorsi dan rangka baja terbuka mencatat jejak geometri ini. Coba aku cari dulu gedung sainsnya yang ada di Universitas Carnegie Mellon. Nah, ini tadi gedung sains di Universitas Carnegie Mellon yang katanya ada serangkaian kubus boolean bulan yang saling berpotongan, padatan terdistorsi, dan rangka baja terbuka mencatat jejak geometri ini. Nah ini. Jadi yang dimaksud balok-balok bulan ini yang ini. Terus kayak terjadi distorsi kan. Udah bisa paham sampai sini? Kalau bisa aku lanjut, yuk.
Ya,
Ini ada gambar
paham,
lagi.
lanjut.
Oke, lanjut ya.
Ya, paham.
Materi. Dengan teknik realitas maya dimungkinkan untuk menerapkan geometri 4 dimensi secara lebih konsisten. Sebuah contoh diberikan oleh arsitektur tak terlihat yang dipamerkan Marcos Novak di Venice Biennale tahun 2000. Mau lihat contohnya kah? Contoh yang diberikan ini? Oh, ini kah contohnya?
Contohnya mana?
Oh, ini loh contohnya. Yang bawah ini. Nah, ini kah? Marcos Novak kan?
Ya, Marcos Novak.
Nih. Itu contohnya. Oh, ini. Bagian utama dari instalasi adalah sebuah batang, digantung di setiap ujung kabel dengan sensor inframerah dan peralatan lensa. Alat ini menciptakan bentuk 3 dimensi berbeda yang tidak terlihat oleh mata manusia, tetapi dapat dipantau oleh komputer. Ketika tangan pemeriksa mencapai bentuk yang tak terlihat ini, komputer mengukur gangguan dan merespon dengan suara tertentu. Dengan demikian, penonton dapat mengetahui lokasi dan bentuk yang tepat dari patung yang tidak terlihat dengan menggerakkan tangan mereka dan memperhatikan soundscape yang berubah. Gambar 33. Oh, penjelasannya dari yang Marcos Novak tadi.
Oh, untuk yang patung sebagai proyeksi benda itu ya?
Ya. Ini loh, patung yang tak terlihat dengan menggerakkan tangan mereka dan perhatikan soundscape yang berubah. Oke, lanjut ya. Dari perspektif sejarah, instalasi Novak dapat dilihat sebagai kombinasi dua penemuan yang terpopuler di tahun 1920-an. Pertunjukan cahaya Bragdon dan Wilfred berdasarkan perhitungan 4 dimensi dan mode berumur pendek lainnya. Theremin, alat musik yang ditemukan oleh Leon Theremin pada tahun 1919, yang menerjemahkan gerakan tubuh manusia secara elektronik menjadi suara.
Enggak kok.
Berarti ini tadi, ini yang Theremin ini udah tahu kah?
Untuk yang
Belum.
Theremin itu kayak gimana ya?
Nggak tahu.
Enggak.
Ada contohnya nggak? Boleh lihat.
Udah coba sebentar. Oh, ini kah? Alat musik yang ditemukan oleh Leon Theremin pada 1999 yang menyebabkan gerakan tubuh manusia secara elektronik menjadi suara. Yang menerjemahkan gerakan tubuh manusia secara elektronik.
Oh, dari gerakan jadi kayak suara gitu ya?
Oh, keren ya. Zaman dulu loh, 1920 loh, Rek. Wow. Wow. Oke, udah sampai sini. Oke, udah.
Ada yang nggak paham lagi nggak?
Dari tadi, pembahasan kita bareng-bareng tadi itu ada yang masih belum paham kah?
Apa?
Kalau menurutnya CEO, tadi kan aku disuruh, aku dengerin tadi. Oh, ini ya. Jadi itu versi modern dari plat card niku mau yo sing dari niku mau.
Iya, yang
Jelas.
kaca itu nggak sih? Apa yang musik itu?
Yang dari
Yang musik tadi.
Kayaknya yang musik. Soalnya
yang
dia
musik
tulisannya
kan
ini.
Clavilux.
Ya itu. Kan itu ada versi modernnya. Nah yang
Oh, itu
musik
yang versi
tadi barusan tadi itu
modern.
juga versi modernnya dari
Sama, cuman beda itunya itu apa? Jadinya itu beda gitu ah.
versi generasi.
Iya.
Generasi nih. Soalnya kan di mana desain 4 dimensi breakdown akan diterjemahkan ke dalam gerakan dengan menggunakan bahan transparan yang peka terhadap suara. Oh,
Paham sih?
paham kan?
Paham.
Jadi kesimpulannya
Langsung kesimpulannya.
Tulen mohon dibacakan.
Nuturnya tolong dibacain.
Oh, yang tadi ya semua.
Ya.
Iya, kesimpulannya.
Ya.
Ya yang ini kan ya masih berantakan. Yang Clavilux itu adalah potongan kaca yang pola yang terinspirasi dari apa tadi? Dari chord musik.
Skor musik ya. Skor musik.
Musik.
Oh,
Tonat balok.
Terus yang apa tadi? Cloud coba.
Clavilux itu karyanya Thomas Wilfred.
Itu Lali.
Bukan dari matematika.
Pokoknya yang Clavilux tadi kan dari musik, terus yang itu tadi Claude dari bukan dari musik tapi dari angka dan geometri dari alam. Terus yang university tadi bangunan terdapat kubus, balok, terjadi distorsi. Perangkap apa yang universitas tadi?
Kalau intinya cuma itu sih. Cuma ini tadi tuh kayak lebih diringkas saya kan.
Iya.
Kamu iso kan ngeringkas. Jadi kok dari hasil kesimpulan aku mau tambah ringkasannya ya. Ringkasan materi ini. Ya, Pak.
Iya.
Oke.
Sekian dari kelompok kami bahas tentang high dimension. Mohon maaf bila salah kata. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Stop record.